It was just a kiss. Why are you making a big deal out of it? She said, so I quietly sold the apartment and disappeared. Now she's lost everything and is trying to find me. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I think the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that we know the people we love. For 5 years, I knew Sarah. I knew her favorite coffee order was a double-shot soy latte with a pump of vanilla, no foam. I knew the way she'd curl her toes when she was cold, the little snort laugh she'd make when I said something ridiculous, and the specific shade of blush that would rise on her cheeks when she was embarrassed. We had built a world of two, a quiet, comfortable rhythm that felt as permanent as the sun's rising. Our apartment was a physical representation of that world, a small, two-bedroom place we'd spent weekends painstakingly restoring, a blend of her bohemian artistic flair and my minimalist practicality. The walls were painted a soft gray, the furniture was a mix of thrift store finds and IKEA staples, and our lives were a tapestry of shared routines and unspoken promises. Our Sunday morning ritual, for instance, involved me making a pour-over while she read the newspaper on the couch, her feet tucked under a blanket, the silence between us a form of profound communication. My stable, 9-to-5 software engineering job was the anchor of our life, providing a predictable security that allowed her to thrive in her fast-paced, high-stress marketing career. We weren't a whirlwind romance. We were a slow, steady, deliberate construction of a shared future. We spent our weekends discussing home renovation plans for a house we hadn't even bought yet, laughing about the ludicrously expensive granite countertops we were dreaming about for our someday kitchen. I was loyal, committed, and completely, utterly blind. The first crack was a small, almost imperceptible hairline fracture in the perfect image I had in my head. A new hire at her marketing firm, a guy named Mark. She started mentioning him more often, describing him as a big personality, the kind of guy who made every office meeting a stand-up routine and who knew all the cool places. He was apparently a natural leader, charismatic, and everyone loved him. At first, I was happy for her. It sounded like she had a great new friend at work. I didn't see the red flags. The late nights became more frequent, not just a few hours past closing, but well into the evening, with vague texts about team dinners or strategy sessions. I'd be in the kitchen, cooking the dinner I'd made for both of us, and she'd text me that she was just finishing up. I'd eat alone, the food growing cold, and tell myself it was just a busy period at work. I started to notice a quiet shift in our conversations. They became one-sided, a monologue about her new, exciting, fast-paced life with Mark and her new colleagues. My job, my projects, my passions felt like a secondary story, a filler episode while the main plot was happening somewhere else. The cold pit in my stomach became a familiar feeling. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't bring myself to believe it. It all came to a head on a Thursday night. She had said she was staying late for a work dinner, a big celebration with the team. It was the third late night that week, and the nagging feeling was now a full-blown ache. I had to know. I did the one thing I swore I'd never do. I opened her laptop. My hands were shaking as I clicked the login button, my heart pounding in my ears. I found her work email logged in. I scrolled through a string of emails with Mark. Innocent at first, just team updates. But then I found the picture. It was a selfie. Sarah and Mark, both smiling, their faces close together, with glasses of wine in their hands. The caption was a joke about a long night and finally getting out of the office. But in the background, a large, well-known billboard of our company's new ad campaign was clearly visible. The picture was taken in the heart of downtown, miles away from their office. They were not at a team dinner. They were alone. A few minutes later, I found a string of text messages. One, a picture of the two of them, their cheeks pressed together, smiling. And the message below it, from Mark, "Great night, beautiful. Can't wait for Friday." My world, my predictable, solid world, began to crumble. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was emotional, a secret life she was building right under my nose. She had been taking the dreams we built and was using them to entertain someone else. I felt sick. When she walked in the door at 11 p.m., her smile was a little too bright, a little too practiced. She started to launch into her story about the big work dinner with the team. I just held up my phone, the picture of her and Mark on the screen. Her smile melted into a mask of cold fury. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, snatching the phone from my hand. "Going through my stuff? That's not okay." "It's not okay?" I asked, my voice calm, almost hollow. "Sarah, you were at a bar downtown. The whole office wasn't with you. That's Mark, isn't it?" "Okay, fine. It was just the two of us for a drink," she said, her tone defensive. "What's the big deal? You're being so dramatic. Is it just a drink?" I asked, holding up the second photo. "What about this?" She stared at the picture of the two of them, their cheeks pressed together. Then, she looked up at me, her eyes filled not with remorse, but with contempt. "It was just a kiss, okay? It didn't mean anything. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" Her words hit me harder than any physical blow could have. It wasn't a mistake. It was a casual disregard for our relationship. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry I found out. Her betrayal was not a moment of weakness. It was a conscious decision to belittle my feelings, and now she was blaming me for my reaction. I felt the last shreds of my love for her dissolve. It was over. She didn't wait for my response. She started packing her things, stuffing clothes into a suitcase with a furious energy, her movements fueled by a desperate need to control the narrative. "This is exactly why this isn't working, you know," she said, her voice rising, a pathetic attempt to deflect. "You're so insecure, so clingy. I feel like I can't breathe. You're holding me back, and I need a man who isn't afraid of a little excitement." I stood there, watching her, the calmest I had ever been in my life. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. The person in front of me wasn't the woman I knew. She was a stranger, cruel and entitled, blaming me for her own failures. Her words, meant to hurt, fell on deaf ears. There was no pain left, only a profound, chilling indifference. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed my car keys. I didn't even look at her. I just said, "I'm done. You can go." I spent that night at a cheap motel, the kind of sterile, anonymous place where people go to escape their lives. The next day, I came back to the apartment, and her clothes were gone. She had taken a few of her boxes and all of her personal things. The apartment was eerily quiet, the absence of her presence a stark contrast to the life we had built. I walked through the empty rooms, the silence a stark contrast to the life we had built. There was no confrontation, no emotional fight. Just a quiet, dignified walk out the door. The next day, I put the apartment up for sale. The first few weeks were hell. I went through the motions, numb and empty. I packed the apartment with a mechanical, detached energy. Each item was a memory I had to process and then discard. The picture of us on a trip to the beach, her smiling with the sun in her eyes. The silly mug she'd bought me for my birthday. The throw blanket we used to fight over on movie nights. I gave away a lot of our furniture. I sold the rest. I just wanted to be free of it, free of her. I had been offered a job a few states away months ago, a good opportunity to start over, but I had put it on hold because I didn't want to leave Sarah. Now I took it. I didn't look back. I didn't tell her or anyone we knew. I just vanished. I got a one-way ticket, packed my bags, and moved to a small town a few states away. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I changed my number. I deleted all my social media accounts, going off the grid entirely. The silence was deafening at first, a heavy, empty space where a person used to be. But with each passing week, that silence became a balm. I started to heal. The pain was no longer a fresh wound, but a fading scar. I found a new, quiet apartment in a neighborhood with old brick buildings and a great coffee shop on the corner. I started a new, quiet life. I went to the gym. I started cooking again, learning to make things I had never had the time for before. I even picked up painting, a hobby I had always wanted to try. My new life was simple, unburdened, and entirely my own. And then, a few months later, the calls started. They came from a blocked number. The first time, I was at my apartment, lost in a new coding project. My phone buzzed, and I saw "unknown" on the screen. My heart gave a small, involuntary lurch, a ghost of the anxiety she used to cause. I just let it ring. The second time, I was in the kitchen, cooking. I looked at the screen, and the number was blocked again. I hung up without a word. The third time, a voicemail appeared. It was her. She was crying. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, her voice raspy and broken. "I made a mistake. Mark, He was a mistake. Please talk to me. I need you." Her voice was a punch to the gut, but it wasn't the kind of pain that brought me to my knees. It was the detached ache of seeing an old wound from a distance. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the rest of it. I blocked the number, but they kept coming. They came from her mom, her friends. They all had the same message, delivered with varying degrees of desperation. "Sarah is in a bad place. You need to talk to her." I was numb to it all. It was like watching a play where I already knew the ending. The closure I had given myself by vanishing was more potent than any revenge could ever be. I didn't hate her. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted her to be a memory. I later found out why the pleas had become so frequent. An old friend I hadn't blocked on an obscure app messaged me a link. The title was a salacious headline about Mark and his workplace scandal. It turned out he was a serial cheater, and Sarah had just been his latest conquest. He had been seeing another coworker, and when Sarah found out, he had cheated on her and then posted about it on social media. The company, it turned out, had a zero-tolerance policy. Mark and Sarah were both fired. Her reputation was in tatters. I deleted the message from my friend, but I didn't block him. He messaged me a week later with more details. "Sarah's been trying to get in touch with you," he wrote. "She lost her job and her apartment. Mark left her and is now with another woman. Her friends are starting to realize the truth and are distancing themselves from her." I just stared at the message. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no schadenfreude, no sympathy. Just a quiet, deep indifference. The person he was talking about was a stranger to me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just free. The calls and texts kept coming, a slow trickle of desperation that eventually became a frantic torrent. They were filled with apologies and begging, each message a more pathetic attempt to get my attention than the last. She tried every channel she could think of, messages from mutual friends, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, even an old email address I hadn't used in years. Her attempts grew increasingly manic. She went from, "I miss you," to "I made a mistake," to "Why are you doing this to me?" The last part, the blame, was the most pathetic. She was still trying to twist the narrative, even to an audience of one. One day, a text came from an unknown number. The message was filled with a desperate rage that felt completely unhinged. "I know you're in city name, because I saw you on Instagram," she wrote, a lie meant to scare me. "I'm coming to see you. We need to talk. I can't live without you." I just smiled. I didn't respond. I hadn't had a social media account in years. It was another lie, another flimsy attempt to gain control, to make me part of her chaos again. I just went back to my painting, to my new life, to my quiet peace. She was a ghost, a memory of a person I used to know, and I had completely vanished from her life. Her karma was a fire, and I was the water she desperately needed. But I was long gone, and she would have to learn how to put out her own fire. The final scene in my life was not a grand confrontation. It was my phone, silent on a table. Her desperate messages piled up, but I never saw them. The final rejection was my complete and total indifference. I had built a new, happy, and peaceful life where she no longer had any relevance. Her entire existence was a distant memory. The power dynamic was completely reversed, and my quiet, unceremonious vanishing was the greatest victory I could have ever achieved. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.